and it is Boy Kills World. Let me see. So, Dante, if you give us the quick story on this one while I.
Okay, so I'm pretty mixed on this one myself. The story is basically it's a revenge movie. Boy loses his family. He finds this weird Asian guy who trains him for no good reason, really. Well, I mean, you find out at the end why, but just as you're watching it, you have no idea why this weird Asian guy took in this little white boy. But anyway, trains his kid. The kid is he mute or is he deaf? Like I couldn't.
He's both.
He's both. He's mute and deaf.
They cut out his tongue and they burned his eardrums.
He burned his ear. That's right. And so yeah, but then he acts and responds in the movie like he does hear things, which is weird, man. There's a lot of inconsistencies with this movie. The action scenes were fun, but again, the story is just basically kid grows up and gets revenge for or on the people who killed his family. So he thinks, and then that's when the story starts to unravel.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the this is a video game.
Yes,
there's a lot of allusions to the video game. You start off in the training sequence, and then you just build your way. You move from one mini boss to the next until you get to the big boss, and the big boss kind of is the big twist at the end. I actually like this movie, and I think no, look, this movie is about violence. This movie is about the action. This movie is about seeing people kick ass, dismember people, shoot guns, and just kind of have some fun with it. There's a lot of humor in this movie, and that's what I appreciated about it. It is, it's not the most grotesque movie you'll ever see, but there's a lot of blood,
yeah,
and there's a lot of just insane kills in this one, and that's what you get, and you have this really interesting cast. I'll just mention that this premiered at Toronto, and I interviewed the director, Moritz Moore, and the producer on the Film Thread interview channel. It's there now. You can watch it. And we talked a lot about just the making of this movie. The movie was also produced by Sam Raimi.
Oh, nice.
And he kind of came on. He was, you look for names to help get your movie made. And Sam Raimi was definitely one of those. And, there is a story here. And if you listen to that interview, you'll see that Sam Raimi's main focus of this movie was that story of Boy, played by Bill Skarsgård, and his journey of revenge and the different twists and turns and paths that he has to walk down. This cadre of the Vander Koy family, they're very different. They're not the villains you're used to. And the way he dispatches them is very interesting. He also has two teammates played by Isaiah Mustafa. Sorry, let me grab the right thing here.
And Andrew Koji?
Yeah, Andrew Koji. Okay, so Isaiah Mustafa plays Bunny, and Andrew Koji plays Basho. First of all, Andrew Koji is unrecognizable in this movie.
Yeah.
I remember watching it thinking to myself, this guy reminds me a lot of Andrew Koji, but it's not him. And then you find out it is him. There's movies like this exist because it's just basically a set piece for action. And I brought that up with the director, and he says, you're not exactly wrong. But it's the world they build around it. To make this movie feel unique and very different from every other action film. And at that point, it becomes a matter of taste. And it sounded like for you, this movie was a matter of taste.
No, I'm not saying I hated it. Like I said, I was kind of mixed on it. Like there were things I really enjoyed about the film. And here's the thing. I mean, I'm more on the side of liking it than not liking it. I feel like there were some scenes that dragged a little bit, but and obviously, like you said, the story. If you're going in for some Oscar-winning story, you're not going to get that. I mean, it's definitely a genre film. It's an exploitation film. Like basically, you're going to see him kill people in very creative and crazy ways, right? So, and that's what they gave you, right? That like the trailer doesn't lie about what this movie is. Unlike Challengers, like Boy Kills World is very upfront about what it is. and it stays on that path through the whole film.
Mhm.
So, but there were some scenes that lulled a little bit for me, and I was just kind of like, okay, like let's kind of wrap this up because it's going on a little bit too long.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the action, and in terms of, did it feel unique to you at some point?
At this point, man, in my life and just all the movies I've seen, I wouldn't say that, there were some scenes that were kind of cool. I mean, as far as like, you know, that's a crazy way to kill somebody. But here's the thing, but they were all like the scenes and the way this movie was shot, just the action was top notch. I mean, it was some of the best action scenes I've seen
Mhm.
in a film, in a action film in a long time. I think Bill Skarsgård, man, he did a great job. He sold it. He sold the pain he was in when he would get messed up,
Uh,
and the fact that he's a mute in the film and can't talk, like his face sells everything,
yeah.
right? So I thought Skarsgård did a great job, and I'm a big fan of his. I like all of his other films, so he was the draw for me for this movie.
Yeah, he's mute and deaf, and that's really played out with his relationship with the Isaiah Mustafa character.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, that was amazing. I will say there are, to me, there were a lot of standout performances. We could, with Bill Sarsgaard, we talked about the fact that he made this. He was looking into doing this movie while doing John Wick 4. And if you remember his role in John Wick 4, there wasn't much action that he did in that movie. And
right.
they talked about that this was kind of his wanting to become an action hero, and that he put on the weight, he did the training, and this is his first foray into an action movie. And it's pretty incredible considering that this is his first. The director talked about the fact that they had to kind of look at him and figure out what his fighting style would be, considering he's not exactly the most bulky guy in the world.
No, but
Um,
he looks good in the film, man. He's pretty ripped up. I mean,
yeah.
like he definitely has that like slender, more like Bruce Lee kind of muscle build,
Mhm. And then and then they built the action around that. There's a pretty there's the battle that takes place on TV against the sponsor, the breakfast cereal sponsor, and the
Right.
very and not to keep going back on this interview, but I will. But yeah, there was very much an intent that each set piece had to feel different, had to feel unique, had to say something about the story, and had to progress along the way. And so a lot of thought. And so when you get to that scene where they're battling the characters from the breakfast cereal, um, they it takes on a very whimsical tone, while at other points there's fights that signify desperation, the desperation to survive. and uh,
Right.
and so there's a lot of intention with it. And the reason I bring this up and highlight this is, you compare that to Disney Star Wars and Ahsoka and the upcoming Acolyte, and you look at these fight sequences and you feel like that they exist only to make pretty pictures, to make action look beautiful. And
Oh, you mean the dancing with light swords?
yes, exactly.
That yeah.
Yeah, and even Echo was the same way. It was just hey, let's do a fight that features this. And so they do the Echo versus Daredevil fight. And it didn't feel like an Echo versus Daredevil fight. It just felt like fight choreography.
Yeah.
And this is one of those movies that just kind of grabs you and says, "Hey, come along for the ride. This is a roller coaster ride. And yes, we put a story behind it, but you're here for the action."
Well, I mean, just the scene at the end alone with the fight, the big
Mhm.
fight,
Yeah.
between him and the other guy. I'm
Yeah.
not no
Yeah.
spoilers. Between but you like that scene though, like that whole fight scene was probably one of the best I've seen in probably in a long time, like
Mhm.
in years. Like
Yeah.
that was a great fight scene. Like that was like as it was yeah, choreographed, but I mean, it felt real, man. Like just the injuries that came along with that fight. You know what I'm talking about?
Mhm. No.
Um, it seemed legit. So like for me, like that scene alone is worth me recommending people go watch the film.
Yeah. I mean, the fights themselves are part of the story, and the way they're fought, the way they're choreographed. It's not haphazard in any way, and that's what sadly Disney Star Wars feels like. What Marvel is starting to feel like is that no one knows how to tell a story anymore with in fighting.
Okay, but the question goes, like, obviously this was a hard R movie, right? Very
Mhm.
hard R.
Yeah.
Hard R. Oh, I got a video about hard R coming up, so keep your eye out for that. But it was a very hard R where Disney is PG-13 at best, right? So is it fair to say that Disney can't go there the way other films would go there because of the fact that Disney has to keep it at a certain rating where these other films don't have to do that?
Mhm. Well, I mean, with Deadpool and Wolverine, let's just say I'm looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine, but the violence there, the over the top violence, is comedic. And heaven forbid that Marvel goes the direction that they did with Guardians of the Galaxy and take the success that will probably be Deadpool and Wolverine and bring it to the MCU and say, okay, this is how, because let's just say that phases 5 and 6 or 4 and 5 of the MCU comes out of the Guardians of the Galaxy playbook, where everything has to be a comedy, everything has to be a joke, nothing can ever be serious ever again. And
Right.
now are we going to go to hyper realized violence and swearing and is that the new direction that Marvel's going to take, because they want to recapture the success that will probably be Deadpool and Wolverine?
Well, it depends on how desperate Disney gets.
Yeah. Yeah. All
And
right.
we're kind of already seeing it right now with X-Men 97. I mean,
Mhm.
they're cursing, people are dying, I mean, so maybe Disney's ready for that switch.
Yeah. I mean, I was very surprised. Danica and I talked about this on Wednesday about the future of Marvel, but very surprised with how let's just say that Wolverine, the X-Men 97 didn't exactly follow the playbook that Disney has been following. There are elements of it, definitely, but they're not following that playbook.
No, they're not. And honestly, maybe for the better, because
Uh,
X-Men 97 is a pretty good show.
Fred Evo 9, I think that's what we're going for here. Googled the name of the movie and read the synopsis. First result page is filled with negative mainstream reviews. Must be a good one then. Let's take a look real quick at Boy Kills World, and we will see. Okay, let me pull it up here. Uh, so Boy Kills World is at 63%.
On Rotten
Sixty
Tomatoes.
percent, yeah, on Rotten Tomatoes. 60% from the audience. The consensus is bolstered by Bill Sarsgaard's all-in performance. Boy Kills World may offer just enough action thrills to offset the thinly written characters and predictable plot. Gosh, thinly veiled characters and predictable plot. Does that resonate with you at all?
I look, the movie doesn't pretend to be anything other than what it is. I mean, it's a revenge movie, right? Like, I
Mhm.
mean, how complicated is a revenge movie?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you killed my family. Guess what? I'm going to grow up. I'm a train, and I'm going to go kill you. I mean, that's a pretty simple story.
Yeah,
It's not meant
absolutely.
to be complicated.
I know. For Mr. Chickle Trunk for two Canadians. So, did you like Boy Kills World? I like Boy Kills World. I saw it back in Toronto. Gave it 8.5. I
Yeah, I
think.
mean, I'm definitely more on the side of liking it. Like I said, I was a little mixed, but more on the side of liking it. The little issues I had were just small.
Yeah. So here's the big question, and then we'll move on to our guest. Um, 63% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's fresh. It's not certified fresh, compared to the 93 or the 90% on Challenger.
But
Uh,
we know why Challengers got that high score, man. I mean, we got to be real here. We got to be honest. It's there's a lot of critics, quote unquote, in the industry. I mean, because was that 90% critic score or audience score?
that's critic score.
Of course. So like I was saying, there's a lot of critics in the industry who are very much pro agenda on that, and they're going to give it a good. Again, they went out of their way to make the guy calling the match
Mm-hmm.
gay. Like they went out of their way to show that he was, even though all he did was sit on that chair watching the tennis match. They found a way to make sure you knew he was gay, and it's like so. There's a content. There's a look. There's a group in Hollywood that's going to constantly give movies like this a good review.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
is. It is what it is.
I don't know. To me, it's like for some reason I think people are just attracted to dark stories, and that was a very dark story. Very unlikable people, and I don't know. This is definitely a dark story as well. Boy Kills World, and I don't know. I have to think about that one longer, but the discrepancy in the tomato score is very interesting to me, and I'd like to just kind of
Dude,
know about it.
97%. That's for that movie. There's some BS going on, man. Like, there's no way that movie gets a 97%.